This morning we're going to talk about building a strong brand voice. And I know we've talked about different topics of branding, and we've talked about how we find our avatar and our perfect client and social media. We've kind of talked all these different things, but I started realizing when I was writing some articles over the last couple of weeks that there is this piece to our brand that is actually the voice. And when I think of a company, when I think of a business, when I think of my own business, it is an extension of myself. And so it becomes its own identity. It becomes its own energetic source. So we want to make sure that we hear its voice, that we give it a voice. And so depending upon where we're at with our business, it's really going to dictate what it looks and sounds like, what it feels like, how it comes across, the emotion behind it, right? Because we're emotional beings, so we do everything with emotion. Good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter, right? So we do everything with an emotion. And so does our brand, so does our business. So even if it's just a small business, a side hustle, or you just have an idea that you want to bring to life, one of the things you want to start thinking about is, what is the voice of the brand? What is, people say you're the face of the brand, right? Like, I'm the face of Get Savvy, you're the face of whatever your brand is, but what is the voice? Because it's going to speak on not just your behalf, but it's going to be speaking to and with your potential customers and clients. So when I was thinking about this morning's live stream and the topic, I was watching my daughter, right? She's 12, get ready for school. And so she's going through this transformation, as we all have been there before, right? We've all been 12 and, going through what are we going to wear to school and what jewelry we're going to wear. And this is part of her new identity, right? Like, she's now starting to wear more jewelry and she wants to hang out at the mall. And so I realized with our brand, we also go through this transformation with our brand and the voice of it as we learn to listen more to what it is, not just our customers are wanting from us or needing from us, but what we're wanting to provide to them. So with that, think about, right, like words have, pictures have 1,000 words, right? We know that. So what does the voice sound like? And we know everything we do, I don't know why my computer's turning off, crazy, good morning, Maria, right? What is it visually doing for us, and what are those words from the visions saying? So if you were to pretend you didn't know anything about your business and you were just one of your customers, and you went and you looked at the visuals that you were presenting and sharing on social media through your marketing, what's it saying? What's coming across? How is it being formulated? How's it being conveyed? What are the emotions that are coming forward, right? And so you want to know where your brand is at. And so where is it? So for me, right, I started my business, right? My LLC was incorporated in 2006. It's a different brand now than it was there. And so now I rebranded under the Get Savvy, new logo, a year ago. So where am I in that kind of brand growth spectrum? Yes, I have 20 years experience. Yes, I have all of that, but my brand is young. The voice is young, right? It has maturity behind it, but it doesn't, when you look at the social media, you can tell there's inconsistency, right? And again, I liken it to my 12-year-old. Like, one day she's, wearing all pink and, glittery or whatever. The next day she's wearing all black, right? She doesn't know if she's coming or going. And sometimes that comes across in our brand, and that's the voice of our brand. And we have to start to wonder, well, where are we at in the growth cycle of our business? How is that being represented in what we're saying and how we're saying it? And so if you guys take a minute, think about what your brand is right now, even if it's just a speck of an idea, right? Or you've been in business for 10, 15 years, doesn't matter. Where are you at right now in your brand, in your business? And what is the visual saying? What is that voice saying to your potential customers and clients? Is it on point? Is it sharing like, we kind of got our crap together and we know what we're doing and here it is? Or is it saying, I'm inconsistent and I don't know what I'm doing, but I actually really know what I'm doing. I just don't know what I'm doing when it comes to marketing and presenting myself, right? So there's that dichotomy. So what is your brand persona? Is it fun and loving, right? Again, I'll bring my 12-year-old, right? Hormones. One day she's amazing. The next day, oh my gosh, you know, somebody come and put me in the, just take me away, right? So where are you at with how you're expressing yourself? And knowing that, right? Knowing where are you at, how are you sharing it? Where are you guys at? And I just realized why my computer keeps shutting off. Hang on a second. I plugged it into a power cord and the power cord wasn't turned on. So hopefully my computer should stay on now. So, and for those that are new, welcome. This is kind of sometimes how things roll, right? Like life is life. So where's your brand? What age is your brand right now? And is the voice matching it? So, and I can use myself as an example, right? Like, even though I've been coaching people for this long, you sometimes can look at my brand on Instagram or Facebook and you kind of go, really? 20? Are you sure? Are you sure it's only not been 6 months? Right? Because I can be consistent. So I include myself in this. Like, this is not, I'm not putting myself on this, pardon me, this pedestal, right? We all go through it. We all go through these transitions. So where's your brand at? Right. So exactly, Maria, right? So it's, you know, we've been doing it a while, but it may not come across as that. So how do we ensure what we're sharing comes across with that we know what we're doing, we know what we're talking about, we have the experience, we have the wisdom, and that is, right? The other piece is that consistency. We talk about this a lot too. Consistency is king. So how do you create consistency? By knowing your persona of your brand, because then it becomes easy. So are you a serious brand? Are you a fun and witty brand? Are you a sexual brand? You know, where you put a spin of sexuality on things? Where are you? What's that persona? What is that for you? Is it all business and no play? Is it a mixture of both? So this is the voice of your brand as you're expressing it through imagery. So when you're looking at the Get Savvy Instagram, you're seeing it's all women. 90% of it is going to be in a professional setting. There's going to be some, you know, lightheartedness behind it. But the voice is for me to purvey that you're going to come to a professional location. We're going to have fun, and we're inclusive and we're open and we're allowed to be vulnerable. So that's what I'm trying to convey through that. Am I successful? I don't know. I hope so, right? So when you know the voice you want to use through your imagery, then it becomes easier to be consistent, because it doesn't become a question anymore of what am I going to post today? What am I going to share? What kind of image am I going to attach to the caption? You already know, because you have it. You can hear that voice in your head. This is what I'm trying to say, and it will be consistent. So consistency matters, and it's not just in the visual, but consistency in the messaging, right? So with your brand, what's the message that you're trying to convey above all else, right? So sometimes it's conveyed in how you name your company, how you name your products. Sometimes it's conveyed in the tagline. So for those of you that are on with me, comment, what is, one, the name of your brand? Two, what is the message you want people, when they see your logo or your name, what is it that you want them to take away? What's that message? What's that statement? So Maria, you're still trying to figure it out. And see, in that, when we're uncertain of what that statement is, that's what impacts that inconsistency of messaging, right? We can be consistent in showing up every day, but if we're inconsistent with what we're saying and how we're saying it, then it can cause that confusion for people, right? So again, like my daughter and I get confused because I don't know if she's coming or going with what she's wearing today versus yesterday versus jewelry, no jewelry, which, right? So this is where we're at. So when we kind of look at, are we in the infancy stage where we're just absorbing everything and we're kind of just spewing out stuff that makes sense to us, but may not make sense to our perfect client? Are we kind of aging in and we're starting to walk, and so we start to get a little bit more consistent and we start to get clear around our voice and what we want to say, because now we have a voice, right? Because now we have a little bit of track record. Are we a teen where we're really coming into our own and we're refining, right? We're refining what that looks and feels like and how that sounds, therefore how it's received. And that goes back to that communication piece. So April says, ASAP Solutions Pro, alternative solutions to life and business. Okay, so the message, what's the message they're going to pull from that, right? So ASAP Solutions, to me, we think ASAP, I'm going to get a really quick, fast solution from her, right? So then Ariana says hers is inspired virtual collaborations. And so when you look at the name, right, it's inspired, virtual, you know it's at a distance, collaborations, she wants to work collaboratively. So the voice of that is one that she, like, there's a partnership available, right? Folks, I want folks to see me make and know the interactions with me will be warm, co-creative, and collaborative. Exactly, right? So inspired, it's kind of like she's going to either inspire you or you're going to inspire her, you know, because as we know, we are teacher and student all the time, and we're always flipping back and forth. So we're always learning as we are teaching. So, so Maria's is board and bilingual services, online Spanish and English translation and interpretation. So Maria, yours is quite literal, right? So the bilingual services kind of gives it away. And so for most people, depending upon your demographic and where you live and who you service, they'll either already know it's going to be a Spanish. Like if you were in Canada, growing up in Canada, if it was bilingual, it was French and English, right? Here in the States, the assumption is it's going to be Spanish and English, right? It would be, if you were going to do a different type of language, you would likely have to put that into your title. So from a brand perspective, those titles, what's the imagery going along with that? How are you supporting the name, right? And that becomes that consistency. So, and remember, our businesses, even though they are, let's see, linear in age, right? Like we age, you know, numerically 1, 2, 3, 4. Our business is kind of the same. We incorporated this day, and this is our 5th birthday, blah, blah, blah. But you don't always match your linear age to the visual age, right? And that's where I get to use myself as an example again, is when you look at the Get Savvy brand, it doesn't match the linear age, right? Because there's some discombobulation going on there. But you know, as we're maturing as a brand, we're getting clear in how we're coming across and how we're getting the messages out to people. And so Susan says sassy girl beads. So that alone, right? Susan and I always love that, right? Sassy girl. You know, you want to go because you want to be sassy, right? So lighthearted fun. I want to empower people to be confident in their choices and help bring out their personality and their jewelry choices. So all of a sudden now, like, so the sassy girl, that's not just a name, but that's the hook, right? So when you're talking about your brand, people are like, I want to go there because I want to be sassy. I want to embrace my sassy side, right? So it becomes that's your voice. When we're talking about how we're invoking emotion, are you invoking an emotion that's going to ask questions and invite people in, or are you asking them to become a deep thinker and sit back and ponder, right? So that's the other part of your voice. Like, what are you, right? So we talk about inflection when we talk. Are we asking a question or are we making a statement? So what's your brand voice doing? Are you matching the voice of what you're saying in your messaging to the call to action? So, and this is where we can kind of, it starts to, we get a little bit broad, but start thinking about how, when you're putting your plan together, because how many of you, so let me know in the comments, how many of you actually have put together like your social media calendar plan for the first quarter of this year? Like, we're at the end of January now, but you know, so for the first 3 months of January of 2024, have you put a plan together? Is our business our brand, or is our brand our services? Yes. That's a great question, Maria. So yes, Susan, right? She says, too many years, I've buried my sassy side. Yeah, it's great. You get to come out. That's your personality, right? That's awesome. So it's tied together. So your brand doesn't have to be named specific to what your business is, right? Most cases, right? Like, so we'll use Nike as an example. Like, we all know what Nike does now, but when we started, when Nike started, was there a little bit of education that they had to do behind why their name was Nike versus that it just made sense, right? So unless you knew all of your, because right, is it Nike, is it a Greek god? I think he is. I have to double check that, but you know, and that's what it's named after. So if you know that history, if you know that part of you know, your education from, I think, like the 9th grade or 10th grade, Susan, you'll know more than anybody, right? Since you work at the school system. I'm going to put you on the spot. Right. Then you're going to know that. You'd know that and would make sense. But for the rest of us, we were like, oh, okay, that's just an easy name to remember, right? Yeah, it was. But there was actually deeper meaning behind it. So when you're looking at that, understanding what the personality, the persona of your business is, and what you're wanting to convey, that's what's going to come through that consistent messaging. So why do you want to know the personality of your business, right? What would be the reason? No current social media plan. Okay, that's okay. What would drive us to want to know? Are we a fun and witty company? Are we more of a serious company? Are we a mixture of both? Are we just lighthearted? What would make it important for us to know that part of our company's personality, our business's personality, and what that persona is? Yeah, so April says hers is broad because she offers event production, web design, and carnival parties. So she has a little bit of everything going in there. So knowing that and creating that voice that matches what you're trying to convey, it humanizes you, right? Because we all respond to emotion. We all respond to those words pulling us in. So it makes our brand more human. We get to see it as individuals. We get to see what that brand is because it becomes a little bit more like us. It speaks to us, right? So, it makes it approachable. So, and I'll use Susan since she dropped it, right? So sassy girl beads. So the whole sassy girl piece totally makes it approachable for most of us, right? Very few people would get, you know, I think from a woman's perspective, would be like, we'll get a chuckle out of it. So it brings us in, it draws us in, right? And it makes us memorable. So your voice, the persona, when you're able to be consistent with what you're sharing and how you're sharing it, you get to be memorable. You get to make sure that when people walk away, it comes back to them. And that was, you know, I'm going to age myself, you know, back when I was a teenager and, you know, there was no internet and we were just watching TV and satellite dishes were just starting to come out. You know, you were forced to watch the commercials, right? Because you only had, where I lived, we only had a couple of channels. So you were forced to watch commercials. And there was a reason the commercials for most of them were corny. right? They were not, is because they wanted you to sing the jingle all day long. They wanted you to remember the saying when at the most inopportune times. So there's a reason for that. That was their voice. That was what they're trying to convey. So what are you with your voice? What is it that you want people to walk away with that they're going to remember you for?